You're not tired, you're drained. Not of energy, but of essence. And guess what? Women can smell that, not metaphorically, but biologically, instinctively, spiritually. She may not consciously know what's off, but her body knows, her intuition knows. Something in you feels hollow, depleted, less grounded. And it's because you've been giving away your most powerful force, like it's disposable. What if I told you that the single habit you've been told is normal, even healthy? Constantly releasing your seed is actually dulling your edge, weakening your magnetism, and muting the primal respect women naturally feel for a man in his full power. The truth is ancient, and yet forgotten. A man who masters his sexual energy becomes someone women don't just like, they revere. This isn't about celibacy. This isn't about fear of sex. It's about command, control, energy, transmutation. Semen retention is not repression, it's redirection. When you stop wasting your seed, you stop wasting your presence. You walk differently, you speak differently. Your eye contact deepens, your voice resonates, and your stillness becomes thunderous. You become felt, not just seen. Women are biologically wired to detect a man who has mastery over himself. A man who retains his seed carries the aura of delayed gratification, purpose, and silent power. He's not chasing, he's not begging, he's not pleasing, he's radiating. That radiation creates an invisible gravitational pull. It's not arrogance, it's depth. And in a world where most men are digitally drained, constantly seeking pleasure and release, a man who holds his power becomes a rare, intoxicating anomaly. Women don't consciously say he's retaining, but they feel the difference. Feel the stability, the confidence, the composure. There's a reason kings, sages, warriors, and monks across history practiced some form of semen retention, because they knew the moment you control your lower impulses, you gain higher perception. Your testosterone doesn't just stay in your body, it alchemizes. Your thoughts get sharper, your drive intensifies, your aura expands, and that aura speaks before you do. It enters the room before your feet cross the threshold. Semen retention changes your posture, your tone, even your scent. Your pheromones get richer, your skin clears, your eyes glow with something animal. Ancient and awake, and that glow commands respect, not just from women, but from everyone. You stop being someone who is needy for validation. You become a source of stability, presence, and mystery. In a culture obsessed with instant gratification, where discipline is dying and dopamine is constantly hijacked by screens, a man who practices retention becomes a walking rebellion, and women admire rebellion when it's grounded in purpose. Make no mistake, women are intuitive creatures. They may not always understand energy logically, but they feel it viscerally. They can tell the difference between a man who's always chasing pleasure and a man who's channeling it into purpose. When you retain, you're no longer at the mercy of your urges. You become sovereign. Your sexual energy, your life force, starts feeding your mind, your creativity, your ambition. You become more magnetic without trying, and that magnetism doesn't fade with age. In fact, it deepens. Women don't respect men who are desperate for them. They respect men who are devoted to something greater. And semen retention makes you exactly that, a man who is focused, fueled, and unshakable. Think about it. Every civilization that valued warriors, creators, and spiritual leaders placed a high emphasis on sexual discipline. Why? Because when you don't chase the temporary high, you open the door to long-term legacy, and that energy doesn't just make you more productive, it makes you more alive. You start seeing synchronicities, your goals come into focus, charisma sharpens, and women notice not just your looks, but your presence, the way you hold yourself, the way you listen instead of interrupt, the way you breathe, grounded, calm, and sure. Retention rewires your nervous system. It fortifies your spine, literally and metaphorically. You're not rattled by rejection or seduced by chaos. You become an anchor, and in a world full of scattered boys, that makes you a man she instinctively respects. Because it's not just about attraction, it's about admiration, it's about trust. A man who doesn't need to constantly release is a man who isn't running from himself. And when you stop running, you start rising. So let this be your reminder. Semen retention isn't superstition, it's transformation. It's not about fear of sex. It's about reverence for your power. When you guard your seed, you guard your kingdom. And women, They bow to kings, not jesters. They don't just crave men with money or status, they respect men with essence. The man who walks in retention is not empty. He is full of purpose, direction, vision, and drive. He doesn't need to prove himself because he already knows who he is, and that kind of man, that man is unforgettable. So, choose wisely. You can continue living like everyone else. Chasing pleasure, leaking power, wondering why you're invisible, or you can walk the path of retention, of mastery, of magnetic masculine respect, and watch as the world and the women in it begin to respond to the man you were born to be.